All right. So, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm excited to walk through a practical classroom ready way to help students think critically about AI. This session is about giving young learners simple tools to question what AI tells them and become more confident digital thinkers. So, it's my title is AI and sorry, spotting bias, building ethical thinkers in K to 5 classrooms. So we're teaching elementary students to question AI responses. All right. So we're going to talk about why AI bias matters in K to 5. I'm going to show a sample lesson, then give you some strategies, vocabulary, and teacher tools you can take with you. And then I'll wrap it up and open it up for questions. All right, my name is Latoya Jones. I'm an elementary teacher and a media specialist. I like to focus on integrating technology cross curricular because I am in the media center and I see all students. So I try to touch on all subjects and integrate tech in that. I'm passionate about preparing students for the future. I advocate for innovation over tradition when it serves students best. Just sparking their interests and tapping into what they enjoy now, just to keep them engaged. And I'm also committed to helping teachers grow as students grow. So, why does this matter in elementary school? AI is one of the most powerful tools right now, and many students are already starting to interact with AI at a very young age. So, educators need practical ways to help students think critically about AI responses. All right, so let me go through this again, catch up to where I was. So, I would think I was here. Why is this important in elementary schools? So they're starting at a young age interacting with AI. So educators need practical ways to help students think critically about AI responses. Oh gosh. So this session is designed for elementary educators who simply want practical ways to build ethical AI thinking into an everyday lesson or into a lesson. But I want to note that if your students have not had an introductory lesson of AI yet, you might want to start with the basic concepts of what AI is, how it works, and why humans must think critically. So, just this lesson would come after an introduction. Okay. So AI is already present in students' lives, so teachers must be ready. Students need guidance, though. With everything, they need guidance and how to use it responsibly, ethically, and effectively. Teaching students to question AI responses builds essential critical thinking skills. So, next up, I have a sample lesson that you can use with intermediate elementary school students. So, but first, I want to give a disclaimer that this lesson is critiquing the output of AI, not critiquing the person that we're going to be researching. So I want to make sure I say that because we also want to let the students know the goal of the lesson is to critique the output of the AI lesson. So let's ask Google, who is Dr. Seuss? And if you type it in Google, there's a AI mode that gives you a summary the AI response. And this is what I initially got when I put in the question, who is Dr. Seuss? It highlights him being the children's author that we know that everybody loves, an illustrator, poet. They talk about his awards and things like that and talk about his famous books. So we want, if I had given the students a report to do on Dr. Seuss and they give me this, they would need to ask more questions so that they can get the whole picture. So there might be some sample questions that students might ask. So I had the students put in this next question: what problems have people found in Dr. Seuss's work? Then AI gave answers about controversy with his work, some banned books, and some racist, insensitive imagery that he did have. Um, but if students had stopped at the first answer, they wouldn't be getting the whole story. So the AI answers can be incomplete, so we need to encourage students to keep asking questions rather than stopping at the first response. You could have some over here. I have some possible question stems. You might have them say, what is missing? Can I ask this question in a different way? What else do I need to know? Where can I check this answer? One of my colleagues in in another session, earlier session, he said that you can ask AI where it got its sources, or where did it get the information from. So these are some types of questions the students might ask. So this activity was called telling the whole story. So if I had the students sketch out part of the story, they would put things like he has rhyming books, he's funny, he's a beloved author, because that's what AI mode on Google initially said. But when we ask more questions, we learn about these banned books, we learn about racial images, blackface, yellowface, and things that he did. Now, this is just a mock up of some things that the students did, create. Um, but if you don't want to go into something that heavy, that I was thinking that was more so for like third through fifth grade. If you want, and this next thing can be done with K-5. You might want to start with an unplugged activity to introduce AI bias. So I have an example of a sorting game where a teacher would make up a silly rule to sort the shapes. So the rule would be, I notice we have more circles in our set. So let's make all the circles here in the important pile. The other shapes will go in the other pile. So this then we help students understand that AI is making a quick decision based on information of what it sees most, not the whole story. So just because we see all the more circles, doesn't mean the other shapes are not important. So if it has because it goes by what it sees most, and it treats it as more correct or more important. Let's see. So, I have a couple strategies, vocabulary that can be connected to this lesson. So vocabulary that I might highlight, bias, because it would be a new introduction to this word. Input, output, what we tell AI or ask AI, and output, what it gives us. Stereotype, when it groups people together based on a simple idea. Fact checking. These are just some. I'm sure there's more vocabulary that may need to be highlighted for this lesson, but I just highlighted these important five. Let's see. So, strategies to remember with AI. Ask AI the question in different ways to compare the answers. So, this approach is grounded in inquiry based learning and critical literacy. Students learn to question AI responses in the same way they would question any text. They compare answers, check multiple sources, and look for information that may be missing. So I have a poster that I use to wrap up the lesson. The poster is tell the whole story, and just a reminder that AI gives info, but it doesn't always give the full picture. So AI can share facts with you. It can help you start your research. It can save you some time, but it can't show all sides or replace real sources, and it can't always be totally fair. So you decide what's missing. Think deeper and check more sources. When you guys get access to these slides later, you can actually download the poster. So key takeaways and so the big ideas here are simple. AI can be helpful, but it can be incomplete. Students need tools to question AI. Bias often comes from AI, from what AI has seen the most. So that was highlighted in that unplugged lesson. And these thinking skills can begin in elementary schools. So I want to say how this lesson idea came about. I had I was at a conference with a high school history teacher, and she was really frustrated about AI. And sometimes teachers are apprehensive about using AI. So she was really frustrated, and she brought up that I can't remember the person that it was, the historical figure, but she talked about how upsetting it was for her to, when she put in who is this person, that it didn't give every all the information about the person. And apparently what was missing was, all the negative, a bunch of negative things, but she was just upset that all the history wasn't being told when she asked AI the question. So I want to make sure. So this lesson is trying to tackle being solution oriented, helping guide students and build confidence in their thinking rather than fear based, as some teachers may be. So it's really empowerment over fear. um so teachers can just start early on these conversations, because it will come up, and students are trying to do research projects just by asking a couple questions and submitting. And another thing my colleague said, you could tell when they submitted it because it has those dashes in it, and we know that it's AI generated, but we need to get ahead and teach them how to use it ethically, and you know what to take, what part of the output to take from it. And I believe so. Build a habit of telling the whole story every time. AI has a favorite way of thinking, not the most complete one. Students need to ask follow-up questions to uncover missing and important details. Check AI responses against multiple sources, just as if they would with any information they get. They can get check books, videos, and even a human expert that knows anything about the topic you are researching. And encourage students to explain why AI's answer might be incomplete or biased. So we are building the habit of telling the whole story. So by the end of this lesson, students add their own voice and input. They know when and how to use AI responsibly. They ask better questions and analyze AI responses. So that wraps up my presentation. If anybody has any questions or you want me to share any other ideas, I would love to hear that. Maybe I went a little fast on that. Thank you. You're welcome, Ashley. And again, that poster, it'll be downloadable after they share the. So I have a question. When you have encouraged students to ask questions, have you been surprised at what they ask or say? Well, the students, they actually come up with better questions than I would think. I always try to give a nice question that is not so harmful or things like that. But the students are, once I teach them the skill, they get down to real deal cutthroat type of questions. So yes, it does surprise me a bit when, because they understand now the lesson. They start to realize that well, they say the word lying. I don't like to say that, but they'll say is lying, and then they'll start asking more unique and specific questions so that it'll give them what they're looking for. But yes, that was a good question. Let's see what else I have here. Yes, they do. It went over well with the intermediate students. Actually, those are the ones who can come up with their own questions. And at the surface level, the kindergarten through second graders, they also understood, because once you start calling something favorite or and things like that, they want to tell you why it's not special. So when I said the circles are special because they started calling out, they like hearts and stars and things like that. So they, on the surface, understood the bias discussion. So and then later they could eventually do, if we did a generative AI type of lesson with them, I would probably guide them through that questioning. So you mentioned you recommend going over the basics of what AI is and how it works. Can you say a bit more about what that could look like? How did you first introduce AI to your students before this? So that's a great question. Thank you. So we were doing how it came up first, and when I realized I needed to do it, we were doing book reports using Microsoft Sway, and I had a student. I guess he created the entire thing with AI because Microsoft Sway gave me a notification that he did. So, and he turned it in to me. So that's when I had to circle back and discuss where they see AI. And they talked about they see it when they're playing games like Roblox and um I forgot all the Fortnite, all kind of type of Minecraft. They said they see it, it'll pop up and say, and they see it when they were the ones that told me they see it when they Google something. So I had to do like a introduction introductory lesson on what it is. And so I use that Sway Microsoft, and I had it pop up and ask me, what do I want to create? And I put it in and I generated what I wanted it to create. Well, I let it create something. I didn't say anything yet. But and then I showed the students some of the projects that were already done. Book reports that were already done that were full of details, student feedback, student opinions. And so I compared, and the one that was generated by AI, it was very general. It had points in there that was not about the actual book that the book report was on. Like it kind of gave feedback from, I don't know where it pulled information from, but I used that as my lesson, my opener of what AI is and how it can go wrong, and how we need to input. So then when I added more information about the book, and then it started to say, "Oh, I'm familiar with that book." And then it changed the layout or the suggested pictures and images for the book report. So that's what I remember doing when I introduced it to my intermediate students, comparing what it gave me when I used it right away. And then we talked about what it is, and then I started the question with what they know about it and where they have seen it, and that's when they told me about seeing it in their games and on Google and things like that. Thank you for that question. All right. Thank you guys for stopping in. You're welcome.